Great, Vinnie. Thank you for inviting me today. It's excited to talk to you about something you may not think about every day, which is specification management. Love to talk a little bit about why I created this category, what it means in more detail, how it relates differently maybe to technology that industry sees today. And then ultimately the most important thing, which is how are customers using it? What's the outcome for those customers? So I hope that's a good agenda for our chat today.
It is. And like you said, you don't think about specifications. Must be a riveting topic. I'm looking forward to it.
I hope what we've done is make specifications more interesting in the world, or going to be doing that. But I think it starts a little bit with my journey. I've been very blessed to have a great career, enjoyed my career in packaging. When packaging was very simple, obviously packaging's raised its elevation of complexity tremendously, which we'll talk about. But during that journey, I had great customer relationships, whether I was running operations or talking to customers. And we'll talk a little bit about why I started this, but that journey was really tight, continues to be today. It's kind of fun. Again, I don't think, Vinnie, you ran out to buy it, but I was able to put out a book about products and packaging and how those are really tightly wound today and why specification management kind of impacts that. So excited to.
Matthew, I've written 7 books, so I always encourage authors. Congratulations. I know how much effort goes into a book, so congratulations.
Thank you. I'd love to chat with you later. I just did the audio version of it and realized that's a challenging task. So, I'm not quite ready for book number 2. I can't believe you've done 7. So congratulations to you. But it is a great journey. So.
I'm stupid.
I think there's one more in me. I don't know if there's 6 more in me. So you always have the crown. But I had some great people helping me, or else it would never have happened. But it's a fun book. It's a short book, and it really just talks about the journey over the last 25 years of product and packaging. So love to get you a copy.
I'd love to read it. One of the most interesting books I read about how containers, how they have the origins, the humble origins, and how they've basically drive global logistics, right? So
what I love about that story, it's a great tie-in to what I'm going to talk about today, is standardization.
Yep.
And standardization changed the logistics world through containers. I love that story too. And it kind of has similar thoughts through what I'm going to talk about today. So it's a great tie-in. But what I saw when I was spending all those years working with great and amazing companies, products that we all use today, that really challenged everything was there's no common language. I always say you can get the 7 smartest people in the room, and if they all speak a different language, no project's going to get done. So I really saw that. I saw that in their company, companies to their suppliers, and ultimately companies to their retailers. And that really didn't allow collaboration. It was really siloed data. And then ultimately bad specs were bad for business. Bad product, waste, lost revenue, slow time to market. So these are the type of things that I was experiencing for a lot of years.
And the timing, given all the supply chain issues we've seen, I'm hearing from a number of executives that they would love more enterprise-wide forecasting. Mm-hmm. And say where it breaks down is supply chain guys talking in rates, and financial people want it in dollars, and HR wants it. I mean, we don't have, even when you specify, we don't speak the same language. Yep. In the enterprise.
So the core problem is the spec, and then catapulted upon that is the common language. So even if you have a spec, to your point, and a spec can be monetary, a spec can be product, can be detail. You're right. The next step is you need to standardize the way that people approach that data. And then the outcomes, which we'll talk about, could be many and meaningful. And so that's exciting. That's the vision I have, which is everything is a spec. A spec this is one of our first customers, still customer today. Specs are all around us. The spec for the seed, the spec for the box, the spec for the pallet. And everybody needs more visibility of that today. We're going to talk about why that's so critical today and why all this language is so despondent, different systems, if it even exists. We're probably bringing over 70% of the data streams from email, spreadsheets, PDFs, and building this common baseline language. And so I'll pause there. It's a lot there, but this is kind of crazy world, Vinnie. I look at as my eyes, my glasses that I wear shows everything I look at is a spec. It's the size, the dimension, the material, et cetera.
I love it because a friend of mine is a CEO at a satellite imagery company. And he talks about everything is a pixel, right?
Yeah.
There's so much data in a pixel in his analytical world, and you're talking a similar language. There's so much in a spec that most of us don't know much about.
Yeah, it's funny. When I started this journey, that was always the number one question. Well, what is a spec? And I think today with as you mentioned earlier, supply chain just devastation, if you want to put a different word at it, and challenges and globalization issues, everybody's starting to realize, hey, okay, spec is all the data I need to know to make things. And I don't have that. I don't have it easily at my fingertips. I can't move from one country to another quickly and fluidly. And so we're really just elevating the category or creating the category of specification management, but it really starts with that spec and then digitizing. We're going to talk about map, operationalize that data. So I love the pixels example and the containers, very similar to what I'm doing with product.
So Matthew, you've primarily focused on CPG, consumer.
Guys, yeah, we're going to be able to show you a great graph. And what's interesting from my history in packaging is that we've had, I had a horizontal relationship. I had customers like SpaceX, I had customers like Nestle. And so I've been able to see all industries and the products that they make. And quite frankly, the challenge is the same. The challenge is, again, this common core language that everybody has accessibility to do amazing things. And so we actually have, and we'll show you a customer slide in a minute, we're very fortunate to have very great customers in industrials. And then if you did, kind of click through industrials, automotive is certainly exploding for us. Caterpillar, companies like those really understand what Specfirst approach is. You go to CPGs, and obviously that's a great market, which we have a lot of customers in retail, food, bev, and really private label is what's driving that. So really broad, but it's the same core problem. It's standardizing the language of which specifications are present through. And then ultimately, the outcomes, what's the criticality outcomes for those different verticals might be slightly different. They might be trying to accomplish something a little bit differently, but the core data and the core platform and the core value would bring us the same. And stepping back, I always give this story, and I think you could probably relate to this as we're just sharing another story earlier about history. When I got in the business 25 years ago, complexity was pretty low. I think we thought it was very complex. Obviously, we've learned it wasn't. But you could really put product in any sort of package and ship it to any retailer, and they would use it. Or you could ship a part in any box or any product, and the user would use it. The challenge today is complexity is just off the charts, even prior to COVID, and COVID's only obviously exacerbated that. But product complexity has grown. We've got globalization, the taste, the retailers are driving both the durable retailers, and then ultimately e-com. Obviously, e-com's added a whole nother layer. So again, it's this explosion of data that really people haven't harnessed and really haven't controlled. And what we're doing is put it again in a common language, a common platform for everybody to work from. Does that make sense, Vinnie?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, and then again, we always believe a spec-first approach, and that's probably the fundamental difference. You can talk about specifications, you can kind of touch on them, but the reality is the data has to start there. And that's where we digitize, and we have a great group now called Spec Squad, which you'll love, which is the team that goes out and helps capture this data. Typically, the data is coming from multiple spots. We believe in integrations and APIs and connecting with other systems. But I really like to spend a minute or two to explain why technology doesn't address the problem today. And it's really a history lesson. I've started this track. I'd love to get your feedback, Vinnie, but about living a double life. We live this, we're just talking about our personal lives earlier. We live this amazing technology life personally with GPS and all these other things. And that we get into industry and it feels like we go back 30 years. It's just hard, it's arduous, it's difficult. We augment it with spreadsheets and emails and workarounds. And I have a vision that really it's one and the same. The experience we have in our personal lives is the same experience we have in our industrial lives. And that's kind of a fundamental philosophical thought. And we have to be, one of our customers said, we're as easy as Spotify. That to me was a comment I'll never forget. I love it.
One of the executives, he's not there anymore, at Cognizant, about 10 years ago, coined the term, the Sunday night experience and the Monday morning experience. On Sunday night, you've got great TVs at home, great connectivity. We get to Monday morning and it's crappy green screen and
Yeah.
stuff.
I love it. I'd love to hear more about it. So what's exciting is we're taught in 7 different universities about how to build product, some of the best universities out there. And so I get to spend a lot of time with them. Actually, next week, I'll be at Rutgers and Clemson speaking about the book and this category that they're teaching in the classroom. And what's interesting to me when I talk to them is they really don't know the drop off of technology they're going to experience on day one of their job. And we've actually had students go to these new employers and say, no, there's an app for this. There's a way we can do this better. So it's kind of an exciting world. But yeah, I want to make technology the same on Sunday night as is Monday. But from a functional standpoint, the challenge and why technology hasn't addressed this is most, as you know, most industrial technology solutions were really built before high complexity and really were built as kind of standalone versions or vision of product, such as ERPs. We love integrating with ERPs, but they really look at site-specific kind of bomb level data. I want to go really much lower than that and energize that ERP relationship. And so really won't click through them all, but I just say they're really a time and place where life has changed so dramatically and so fast that we have to stop and do it different. And that's the specification first approach. So any particular ones you'd love for me to go deeper on, Vinnie, or does that make sense?
I just meant to ask you, I mean, a lot of product companies are moving into services, right?
Yep.
Especially the industrials. It's a trend called servitization.
Yep.
Are you looking at field service or maintenance as possible extensions?
Sure, you should. What's fun is the extensions are unlimited, right? So we're looking at extensions 2 ways, and to that specific example, absolutely accessibility and visibility all the way through to the data level of where it was made and how it comes together. One of our clients right now is on the service application, is looking at how they can solve problems in the field based upon that data and be able to pull different specs together to create the solution quickly versus kind of industrial or historical knowledge of, oh yeah, I think if I do this and this, it'll work. It actually, they can scan off remotely off their iPhone what the problem is, and it'll look for the specs that need to be the solution to that. So yeah, it has really high downstream opportunities and effects for all industries, but definitely that one. It's a less mistakes, less errors, less waste, less time. And quite frankly, today the solution used to be just throw a lot of people at it. And you and I know that's not the solution today. There's no large workforce pool to pull from, and so they're also looking, how does this make people faster?
Okay. You may in a future presentation include some of those extensions.
Yeah, so what I'll talk about a little bit here is where do you go from it? So the pillar of specification management is, again, we keep talking about this DNA level of data, and we help understand how to get that. And we understand what I think helps catapult things is we understand what you need to know. A lot of people struggle there. Like, what is the spec? What's the detail level I need to know? And we share that with them. We give them these standardized templates, which has all these best practices from our customer advisory board. But it's really the DNA level. It enables this relationship with the suppliers, with the retailers. I look at all those as participants that need to share data and easy to share it. Not this arduous portal or this one directional sharing. It's this kind of open field sharing. And obviously you can provision and hide certain data from certain people. But in general, this whole concept of there's no to and from relationship. It's everybody's working together. And then we really look at
how do you deal with, obviously we have standard bodies, right, all around the world, and see a whole bunch of other. A lot of companies use that as a starting point. How do you deal with that?
Maybe if you click through one more step and I'll be able to answer it. Like, give me an example. Or
I mean, in every industry there are some standards bodies, right? Who will say,
yep,
this is a specification. So
yep.
Bureau of Labor Statistics, for example, has a whole bunch of occupations. It's got 7-digit codes for each occupation, right? So
yeah, I follow it now for sure. Yeah, so a couple of things. We really believe in an open collaborative relationship. So again, I talked about the 7 universities. We have an academic advisory board, which looks globally at what the standards are. We have a relationship with ISTA, International Safe Transit Association. We actually have a joint product with them. and on with other, we have many partners. What's interesting in the packaging space, which is where we started, there was really no global standard. And so we've created that standard.
Okay.
When, to your point though, when you get into ingredients and formulas, there are some standards that we like to integrate with or add solutions on top of our tech stack. And so very well aware of that. We started in a space that we kind of created that standard. But then now as we're going into products and ingredients, formulas, we're starting to integrate with other solutions that help us set that standard. So we're integrating with some really cool sustainability standards that really what our data does is help create what they're trying to look for, and they get a standard data flow, which makes their tools work even better. And I think everybody's, again, I look at like, not very probably interesting, but I look at the really low level boring data that creates amazing outcomes. And so, this is kind of how we look at it. We start, we build up the data. So we have, the packaging, the product, the raw materials, the ingredients, the machinery, whatever the industry is. And we bring that up to visualization. So you can quickly create products. You can create products out of historical products. You don't just keep adding to the problem. And what's fun is that Gartner has identified us as a cool vendor. They've identified specification management as a category. And we have a broad relationship with our customers that really love us and really believe we're making their companies better, which we'll talk about a couple stories here in a minute. But that's the baseline of how we look at things. And question you asked, I think it's stressed enough. We love collaboration. We just had a summit, which was amazing, even given all the challenges of getting together. And Austin had a couple hundred people there, but a third of it was partners, partner solutions, other tech or apps that can sit on us or we can integrate with, because it's a massive opportunity, it's a massive challenge. And there's going to be stuff that we have in our roadmap and stuff that we don't, and be able to integrate those solutions together or integrate directly with some systems that exist today. We like working with SAP. We were one of the SAP IO 7 companies in the world they're working with. And so I really look at it, hey, listen, this is we're just out educating, because this is something we all need. It improves everybody's existence. So I know we're chatting, Vinnie. I'd love any other questions, but I just thought I'd talk through a couple real quick stories here, because I think ultimately that's the answer. You can create I always say you can have the best idea in the world and nobody cares. It's really what do you do with it? How do you make it applicable? And you see some amazing brands in front of us. There's just a sample, but Thermo Fisher, amazing company, does amazing things. What they realize is that, in catheters, which is a very important product, they had multiple versions of what something should be. And they wasted a lot of time, money, and issues trying to resolve which one they should be producing in which country and which location. So we standardize. Again, they have, as you would imagine, they have kind of the baseline standard, but they have no method for that to be in a platform that everybody can share and see and visualize and not be able to do anything different than what that is, unless you're allowed to. And so really, again, setting the standard with them. We don't build catheters, we don't know catheters, but they do. And so we help put it in a digital language, a language that computers understand, that people can access. And so they quickly saw a couple $100,000 of savings, faster speed to market. Obviously, there's a demand for their products. And so we're in a really exciting expansion with them, going to all sorts of other products.
Who is your prime buying center?
Yeah,
is it on the product side of the house? Is it more sustainability? Where do you enter an organization?
Yeah, and that's great. It's moving. The question's moving a little bit to a broader audience. I'll answer it twofold. One is what level, and then kind of what position. And so what's interesting is our data can be used by everybody. So every one of our customers, we have less than a 1% churn. We have basically 20% net improvement every year, means that it's more people using it in the same company. The data is great for everybody. And so whether it's quality, sustainability, procurement, engineering, everybody loves the data because they all need it for something different. But typically we enter in operations. There's some sort of operational issue. There's some sort of operational pain point that they're trying to resolve, and they see how this resolves it. And then we quickly spread to other departments, same data, or perhaps we add data if we go to other product lines. And so we typically entered in a kind of what I'd say a VP of operations, a general manager of operations, that could have procurement under them, maybe quality and sustainability somewhere in there. We've actually quickly gone in the last 6 to 9 months up the C-suite, We're actually coming in at CFO level, CIO levels now, because the awareness of the gap of this problem solving is getting greater quickly.
Have you had any dealings with master data management groups and companies?
Yeah, so it's yeah, you said you're going to ask questions that could go on for hours here, but certainly could chat sideline. Yeah, but every one of these big companies, I'll show you a logo slide in a minute, and they're going to be companies that have master data management. It's a philosophical at the moment, but is the world in the future of us going to look at master data management separately than it's going to look for outcomes because of the provisioning capabilities of technology today? We can be both. So either we can enrich the master, if they choose to stay with the dual system, we can either enrich one, replace the other one, or really in a lot of companies' cases, we're becoming both the master data management and then obviously with provisioning and guardrails, also the utilization tool.
Okay.
So again, that's a great long discussion, but yeah, a lot of conversation around there. And people, I think, are trying to solve what the answer is to that. And every company is approaching it a little different still. And another, so back to your vertical. So certainly Thermo Fisher Scientific's in the vertical. Greenway Farms, largest carrot producer in the country. They wanted to their specifications were product. I mean, if a vendor needed a spec or a new vendor needed a spec, they had to come in and get product and a spreadsheet that went with it. And maybe they aligned, maybe they didn't. And so we went in and standardized how they looked at all their packaging initially. And put them on one common platform and gave everybody visibility. And it was really interesting. The vendors loved it. They said, we're all now speaking the same language. And they went to bid and quickly saved money, not taking margin out, but standardizing. Again, helping everybody. The vendors loved it because less waste, less mistakes. When the vendors have mistakes, it's obviously the customer's right. And so they don't want mistakes. And so that's a great success story. They've been with us, customer number one. They're still with us today and growing into machinery parts, product, et cetera. So that's an exciting story. And then Central Garden Pet, kind of another vertical. So you got, animals, carrots, and medical, right? But the same core problem. Central Garden Pet fortunately went to us, got their data structured, got it standardized. And then they had a vendor that said, we're no longer going to supply this product line. It affected 65 of their products. They would have stumbled historically. They said it would have taken them 6 or 9 months to try to figure out what they have, where they can share it. They were quickly at their fingertips able to provision that data for those items that they no longer could source to other people and quickly made the transition to a different vendor set. And they figured that would save them a lot of money. We're two with Central Garden Pet is we're expanding rapidly with them right now. So it's exciting. I always love what's the outcome, what's the value, the benefit to the business. And obviously the stories are, can go on and on, but hopefully that's a good sampling to kind of put some realization of, does this really matter? Does it really help the companies affect change?
So Matthew, these are individual projects, right? In each of those 3 use cases. How do they turn that into long-term use of your product? Or are you more project-based?
No, it's great. So I always say a project starts the journey. Something happens, or something wants to be happened. That includes sustainability, which is a huge talk track, which we can visit for a minute on. But it's typically what starts the conversation is there's a desired outcome or there's a problem. And so in those 3 cases, both 2 of them were desired outcomes. One was a issue they had to address. The cool part is the MAU score. How often is somebody using the technology? We're 55. It's a score that puts us close to social media. That's probably one of the things that people had a hard time when I first created this was how often are people going to use it? They're going to be there once a month, once a year. So MAU score means that 55, basically 55% of the time that the system's on, they're using it. So what are they doing? Why are they in there for hours a day? They're creating new products. They're looking for products to make better. They're looking for products to standardize or product to rationalize. Or they're prevailing or giving that data to another department to look at. Why not check quality off the standard spec instead of after the fact? Why not make products out of the products you already have? Why not work with sustainability goals with data? So yeah, it's a great story. I just looked at the recent charts. We continue to grow in utilization. I think we can push that past social media. I think that somebody just does everything in this platform. The platform wakes up in the morning and tells you predictively kind of what you should be looking at that day based upon news trends, based upon sales trends, et cetera. So I look at, 55 is unheard of industrial technology. I look at, we still can even get people to use the system even more than they are today. And the experience is great. They say they enjoy it. They can learn. and be active 20 minutes into it. It's very intuitive. And we have a great customer advisory board that's helping direct us down the path.
Matthew, God bless you. You're making specification sexy.
That's my goal. When I can get to that point, then I'll retire. But until then, it is fun, and we are trying to create a fun brand. We're trying to create a great experience. And I always say we just had some massive phone calls the last 2 days. We're not selling. We're just educating, and it's just common sense. If you can standardize your data, go to the baseline data, you digitize that. You map those relationships, you operationalize it. I'll tell you a quick story there. And ultimately, we're building network, which is going to allow people to seamlessly share data as they want. It's funny on the operational side, we've had customers that we've done the digitization, we've done the mapping, and then they go back and like, well, can we still do our 130-step process? No, you've got to rethink how you do things. And we've had customers that will publicly say to build products and legacy systems and took them 140 steps and they can do it in 3 steps. And that's the concept of operationalizing this once you've done it. And so it's an exciting team. We have a really strong credo. We believe in a lot of fundamental things about enjoying what we're doing, simplifying the complex, being active learners. And ultimately, though, our customers have to be able to do amazing things to show success. So I know I shared a lot, and hopefully specs have risen a little bit in your vernacular of excitement before we got on the call.
No, so I can see a lot of use. Talk a little bit about the sustainability. You've had a corrugated packaging one. Where are you seeing the sustainability angle play out?
Yeah, so I always am very clear on this, and there's going to be a great video coming about us in sustainability. We are not a sustainability solution in definition. We have decided not to define what sustainability is. That's for companies and countries to figure out. But when that's figured out, what we are is the ability to see that. You cannot be sustainable without data, without the right data. And what's interesting is I think that Gartner just published a report that said, by and large, most companies will not hit their goals. And the number one culprit of it is they don't know where the data is. And so if you have the data, we have customers doing this today, they're very public about it. If you have the data of what something's made of, where it's coming from, you can do a lot of things with that. You can change your carbon footprint. We're working with Post and their group about that. They're public about it. We're working with other companies that maybe be able to reconcile or reduce their SKUs or change the size or change the material compound. I look at sustainability as it's going to be with us forever. This is not a one and done. It's not a project. It's not a checkbox. I'm passionate about it. You have to, and then ultimately you can quit making bad products. We don't talk enough about mistakes as part of sustainability. There's an allowable waste in industry. It shouldn't be. So we are the engine under the outcomes, and we're integrated with a company called Triac, which does LCAs. And we're integrated with some other sustainability tools because we're, again, below there with the right data set. And then ultimately, people want to know what's happening. And so if you have historical data structured correctly, you can say, hey, here's where we're going from and to, and what it looks like. And then lastly, I think that's most important, is ultimately setting the guardrails. We can do that in a system that says, and we do it today, hey, you've come out with this edict as a company, and if you do what you're trying to do right now, you're gonna not go down that same path. And so you need to really reflect on adding this product or this compound or something. But that's data, that's technology that we experience everywhere else. It's just being applied here. So broad answer, but it's really exciting. I think we empower it, and we're doing that today with some companies.
Thank you, Matthew. This is, like I said, you're making a standards and specifications sexy. That's quite a feat.
Yeah, well, I took an easy task and tried to figure it out, but no, we're having a lot of fun at it. We have an amazing team. I call it a mix between technologists and industrialists, and so the team's super excited, as our customers are. I'd encourage you to go look at our website, look at some of the videos from the last meeting with our customers, and it's exciting. It's a really important stuff that we're all doing.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. Appreciate the time to spend with you today.